Haribol, Namaste, Hare Krishna. Welcome to my weekly Bhagavad Gita class. Tonight we're going to be discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 41. And I know I've said that for the last two classes. So the first class we discussed like a summary overview of chapters 1 to 3. Then last week was chapter 4. And so now we are actually going to discuss the verse. So exciting. Shrimati Sirasarupananda Paramahasa Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnuvaraya Krishna Staya Uttare Shrimati Sirasarupananda Paramahasa Iti Namine Nama Sirasarupananda Paramahasa Namine Gora Karuna Sarupaya Radha Krishna Kristaya Nama Sirasarupananda Paramahasa Namine Gora Karuna Sarupaya Radha Krishna Kristaya Namaste Saraswati Devo Gauravani Charine Nirvisesha Sunyavare Askacha Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavade Askacha Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Harita Karara Vasiko Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Harita Karara Shri Vasiko Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Asarika Bhaktivinoda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Yasiko Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Parivajikasatara Satta Shishimad Jigakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikasatara Satta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shilharidas Sako Ki Jai, Nitai Goswam Nishan Ki Jai, Navadvip Dhamma Ki Jai, Shishi Radha Krishna Go Gopinath, Shamakun Radhakun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Mayapadam Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktarina Ki Jai. Shima Bhagavad Gita ki jai. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Gora Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Omagina Timarandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lavita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before speaking, first offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagatguru Siddhasarupananda, Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. It is very dear to Radha and Krishna. Now for my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Haribo, Namaste, Krishna, Krishna. So thanks for joining me as we pursue our Bhagavad Gita journey. So those prayers or mantras that I chant, they're like known as a Mangalacharana, an auspicious invocation. And you can find these prayers at the beginning of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So they're just nice prayers offering obeisances and respects to our spiritual master with the Om Ajnana Timarandasya. Then to Srila Rupa Goswami, Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutali. This is a prayer glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami, who understood Lord Chaitanya's mission and wrote the literatures that explain in great detail Lord Chaitanya's teachings and philosophy. Then they offer respects to the spiritual master and to the six Goswamis, the six Goswami disciples of Lord Chaitanya, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, who compiled the Gaudiya Vaishnava literatures, re-established lost pastime holy places within Vrindavan, all the different pastime places of Krishna and the residents of Vrindavan, is particularly the gopis and Srimati Radharani, the different pastime places, and then to Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani and her associates Sri Vishaka and Lalita, her gopi girlfriends, her closest gopi girlfriends. Then there's a prayer to Lord Krishna, then one to Srimati Radharani, and then the Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha prayer, which is offering respects to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. And then, of course, the Panchatapa Mahamantra and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the great mantra of deliverance. So these are wonderful prayers, and if you read the beginning of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, you'll find the translations and you can contemplate upon these wonderful prayers. So we are finally going to discuss chapter 4, verse 41. I kind of been saying, okay, it's verse 441, right? And then last 2 weeks ago, I sort of gave an overview of chapters 1 to 3 of Bhagavad Gita, a summary and overview. And then last week, a summary of chapter 4 up to where we're up to text 41. And this was because there's been like a 6-month break since I'd given the last Bhagavad Gita class. So anyway, so here we go. We're going to dive on into text 41. Of course, we will discuss a little bit about how we got to text 41. So this is in the last. There's like 6. Anyway, the way I've analyzed it, and others have analyzed it, there's 6 kind of verse sequences or themes in the 4th chapter. And so the final sequence of verses here is actually quite amazing. It's wonderful. And it's verses 34 to 42. And this is about the gift of transcendental knowledge. So like, the word gift is very, important, or a nice word to capture the idea that we're receiving, a valuable gift. We're being given this. Here in the instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he's actually bestowing upon the living beings for all time and all places the transcendental knowledge by which one can become free of this material world, this world of birth and death. But not only that, of course, that's something wonderful, shouldn't minimize it, but he's actually teaching, the goal of life. The goal of life is not to attain liberation or mukti. There's, according to the Vedic analysis, there's 5 goals of life, or purusharthas. Purusha means, person. Artha is goal. So there's like 5 purusharthas, or goals of life. First is morality, dharma, religiosity, right? Living a moral life. And so this is very important. Of course, it's very important. And the second is artha, or economic development, acquisition of wealth. This is a necessary thing, particularly for householders, right? People married with families, they need to earn some income, support the family scene. But what's important here is dharma comes first. Dharma comes first. So the economic development is done in accordance with dharmic principles. Dharma, as I've mentioned about 50 times, means the law, L with a capital L. This is how academics define it or translate it. And so it means doing the right thing. And what is this right thing? It's doing things in accordance with the Vedic literatures, which are the Krishna's handbook or guide, user guide to this material world. We're in the human form of life, then we follow the Vedic principles. Of course, in this age of Kali Yuga and in Western society, this is quite difficult to follow all the different rules and regulations. But we'd have to follow the key points. Anyone can. In fact, the Varnashrama system is all around the world, and this is one of the key aspects of the Vedic principles. Is four types of occupational duty and four kinds of ashramas or spiritual ashrams, stages of life that one goes through, and one should follow the different principles that are involved. And of course, this also includes following the four regulative principles. Avoidance of intoxications, avoiding meat eating, gambling, and illicit sexual activity. So these principles are important. So this is Dharma. So this then guides the type of economic activity or artha that one engages in. And then the third goal of life is karma, which is sense gratification. So this sense gratification is regulated within terms of Dharma. So in other words, for example, sexual enjoyment, this is regulated in such a way as to take place within householder life. So it's like a license. There's like licenses to engage in a certain amount of sense gratification. Not like it is in the, in the West, where it's just unrestricted sense gratification. No religious principles guiding how one should earn money, or how one should earn a livelihood, or how one should engage in sense gratification. I mean, naturally there's sense gratification. We have senses, and naturally, it's quite natural to want to experience sense gratification that's pleasing. I mean, who wants to go and do things that are not pleasing? Of course, in certain stages, as one becomes receives transcendental knowledge and understands, well, I'm not the body, then a certain amount of detachment comes. Then detachment is realizing, okay, well, I'm not this body, so I actually have nothing to do with this material world. So one becomes detached from sense gratification. And then in later stages of life, one becomes detached. One becomes a retired person, gives up working, begins pursuing scriptures. So the scriptural study and spiritual knowledge, and so the pursuit of sense gratification becomes not important. Then ultimately one can become a renunciate and renounce sense gratification altogether. Just live a simple life, wandering around. So anyway, there's these Vedic principles. This is Dharma, and then beyond those, there's liberation, mukti. This is liberation. This is for those who realize, well, this material world's not a place of happiness. And it's a place, in fact, it's not just a place not of happiness, it's a place of, great distress. Going through these stages of life, getting involved in household life and having wives and children, we experience, well, wow, this is pretty this isn't that cool. There's all kinds of issues that come up, all kinds of conflicts and difficulties and stress involved, And, it's like Siddhartha, Buddha, he's very sheltered by his father, the king. He's a prince. And, he's in his palace, but his father's protecting him from seeing anything bad that happens in this world. Because there'd been a foretelling, an omen or an oracle had predicted, a future seer, had predicted that he was going to become a renunciate or a great king, one or the other. So the Buddha's father was terrified. Oh, he's going to become a renunciate. I've got to make sure he doesn't see the bad things of this world. Otherwise, he's going to want to, renounce the world. So anyway, you probably all know this story. I won't go through the whole story, but he had a servant who took him outside when he was older, and his father arranged a beautiful bride for him, beautiful wife. He had this, incredibly beautiful wife. He had all kinds of opulence. He had, what most people would consider a fantastic material situation. But, he wanted to go out and see what's happening outside the walls of the palace. So he sees a sick person. And then he sees an old person. And then he sees a dead body. A dead person, because you're not really a person anymore, right? Once the body's dead. So he sees all these, and he's asking his servant, what is this? What's this about? Like, what, this, and, an old person, if I miss the old person. Right? So anyway, he sees sickness and disease, old age, poverty, and death. So he sees all these, these unpleasant realities. And he asks his servant, well, it's like, does everyone grow old? Does everyone die? Does everyone get sick? And there's even me, So like the servant's telling him, well, yeah. Yes, that's the way it is. Everyone experiences these things, So then Siddhartha then goes to his father, or he decides he's going to renounce the world. He's going to leave his wife. He's going to leave the kingdom, and he's the only heir to the throne. So of course the king is like completely, worried. There's like a king is always thinking about what's the succession. What's going to keep the dynasty going. Right? And if there isn't a successor, it causes all kinds of strife. There becomes all kinds of conflict as other people try to claim the throne, So there needs to be a successor within the kingship model. And anyway, so Buddha goes to him and says, I'm going to leave, renounce the world. And the father's going, no, no, don't do this, right? And so Buddha says to him, well, if you can promise me that I won't die, that I won't grow old, and that I won't get disease, then I can stay. But if you can't promise that, then you can't stop me from seeking a solution to these problems of life, these real problems of life. Otherwise the analogy he gave is like, the body is like a house on fire. It's like he's in a house on fire. You can't stop someone from trying to put out the fire. So anyway, so his father, what could he say? So then Siddhartha Gautama Buddha then pursued his path. Of course, he's a incarnation of Krishna, and teaching Buddhism. But the goal he was teaching was liberation. But of course, Buddhists become attached to Buddha, so it's almost like tricking them. There's a whole story about why he's doing this. It was to stop people misusing the Vedas for the purpose of animal sacrifice. So he then taught ahimsa, non-violence. Don't eat the animals. Forget about all these Vedic sacrifices that are just resulting in killing of animals that people are using as an excuse to eat meat. So one of the principles he taught was ahimsa, non-violence. And but anyway, he's teaching mukti, liberation. Get free from this material world, this material situation. It's a place of suffering. And so this is the fourth goal of life, mukti, liberation. But the fifth and highest goal of life, this is taught by the Vaishnavas, is to attain pure love for Krishna, prema bhakti, pure love. So this pure love means love without any self-interest. This is the highest goal of life. Like liberation is like the cessation of the misery and the anxiety, right? But there's no positive spiritual engagement. Whereas bhakti, prema, is spiritual engagement. The soul engaging in a loving relationship with the Supreme Person. The Supreme Person is the Krishna, is the source of all blissfulness. his form is Satchidananda, eternality, cognizance or knowledge and bliss. So this practice of bhakti yoga that we're engaged in, yoga means to link up. So we're trying to link up with the source of all pleasure, the source of everything. So when we link up, we have, relationships, we link up with a member of the opposite sex or whatever, and we get into a relationship and we experience so much happiness, at least for a time. It's kind of like, wow, this is so nice, and people they start floating down the street, They're so happy. I always remember seeing this young couple, devotee couple, very nice devotees. But anyway, they get into a relationship somehow or other. And one night I'm driving down the road and I see them, and she's shorter than him. She's looking up at him and he's looking down at her. And it was almost like they're floating down the street, So, I mean, you could see the relationship, the union that they're experiencing in a loving relationship. Of course, it's not pure loving relationship, it's all conditional. So even in a material relationship where the love is conditional, I'll love you if you love me, and if you do certain things for me, and you want me to do certain things for you. So, and if I don't do them, you're not gonna want to have a relationship. Anyway, it's all very conditional. But even in a conditional relationship like this, just the relating to another living entity, there's so much happiness comes from it. They study this, right? There's all kinds of endomorphines or whatever they are, different chemicals when a person gets into a relationship. And even they say, people who are married live longer than people who aren't married, because they're caring about someone else. They're feeling responsibility in a relationship with others. So this is a type of yoga. But when there is yoga or union or linking up with the Supreme Person, the source of all blissfulness and the source of everything, I mean, it's just inconceivable how much pleasure there is in that relationship, in that linking up with Krishna. So this is what Krishna is giving us in Bhagavad Gita. He's giving us this transcendental knowledge by which we can, walk down this path or step up the rungs of the yoga ladder to become a devotee. Devotee means someone who's devoted and has love for Krishna and can link up with Krishna in bhakti yoga and experience this blissfulness. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, mood and complexion, the color of Srimati Radharani, then teaches us how to actually engage in sadhana bhakti and to actually develop this loving relationship, or to reawaken this love. This love is innate within us. But by engaging in the practices of sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, we can reawaken this natural love for Krishna that's within us all. So anyway, this is the gift of transcendental knowledge that Krishna is giving us. So, we should never take it lightly or take it for granted. Sometimes people are born in families of devotees, and they can take it lightly, not appreciating this valuable gift. It's as if, I was telling a story last night about Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja Acharya is the great Sri Vaishnava Acharya, right? He's, I think, in around the 8th or 10th century, and somewhere in that time period. And, he was a great Acharya who, wrote commentary on Vedanta Sutra and also on Bhagavad Gita. But in his commentary on Vedanta, he defeated Sankaracharya's arguments, impersonalistic arguments. And this was built upon by Madhva Acharya a couple of centuries later. And they're solidly defeating the impersonal interpretation of Vedanta. The Vedanta, of course, the end of all knowledge, is like Srila Vyasadeva's summary of the Vedic literatures. So anyway, Ramanuja Acharya, he received a mantra from Gosthapurna. His spiritual master Mahapurna had told him, go to this Gosthapurna and receive this Vaishnava mantra. And so he received this mantra, he's initiated into it, right? Spiritual master speaks the mantra into the right ear. And, when he received this mantra, Ramanuja Acharya was like, overjoyed. What a wonderful mantra this is. And how much pleasure there is in chanting this mantra. And anyway, his spiritual master told him, Gosthapurna told him, look, this is a very special mantra and it can only be chanted by pure people. Anyone chanting this will achieve love for the Supreme Lord. And but you can't give this mantra to anyone else. Very strictly told him this, right? So then Ramanuja, leaves, and he's on his way back to Sri Rangam, and he goes, and on his way, he's in some small village or town, but anyway, there's a Vishnu temple there. Sri Vaishnavas were worshippers of Lord Vishnu. Some are also worshippers of Ramachandra. Anyway, he's on his way back, goes by this Vishnu temple, and he starts telling all the people, come, I want to give you the most valuable gift. I'm going to give you the most valuable thing. So come to the temple. So he's very effulgent, a powerful spiritual personality, a great acharya, right? So all these people are coming. What's he saying? Let's go there. So the courtyard in front of the temple fills up with, thousands of people. And Ramanuja climbs up to the top of this temple, and he says, I'm going to give you the most valuable thing, So a lot of these people are thinking they're going to get some diamonds or some gold or something. So anyway, then he chants out the mantra, and this is 8-syllable mantra. It's Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. So he just chants it, and then everybody repeats it. And so it's, Narayan is Nara refers to people, Yana is the shelter. It refers to Lord Vishnu lying on the causal ocean with Lakshmi Devi massaging his feet. So this is very much like, we're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We worship Krishna in the mood of Vrindavan. So we're not so interested in this worship of Lord Vishnu where there's awe and reverence involved. Lord Chaitanya, teaches love for Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. This is what the goal we're aspiring for. But in any case, Ramanuja is chanting this Om Namo Narayanaya mantra, and all the people are repeating it back, and it's just like this ecstatic situation. So anyway, we are receiving this most valuable gift, and we should appreciate it. This gift of the Hare Krishna mantra, this gift of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is giving us the most valuable gifts, the gifts of his teachings and lectures and service opportunities and so on. So anyway, so this section is called the gift of knowledge. And it starts with text 34, which of course is approaching just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Right? Inquire submissively, render service, and the self-realized soul, the Jnaninas, can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. Tattvadashinaha. Right? And once you've approached the spiritual master, once you've learned the truth, then you'll know that all living beings are but part of me and are mine. Then Krishna describes the glories of transcendental knowledge. Even if you're the most simplest sinners, if you're situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So this transcendental knowledge is like a boat we can cross the ocean of miseries in. And just as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So all this karma that we've accumulated, good and bad karma, good and bad results to our activities for lifetime after lifetime. It's like we're carrying this karmic load with us. You know, it manifests in our mentality, like the mentality we have, the personality we have, the very body we have, the family members we have, the difficult situations we're experiencing, the good situations we're experiencing. This is all a result of our karma, right? Our fruitive activity in past lives and this life. So it's like, and the actions we're engaging in now is creating our future situation. You know, but Krishna is saying here, transcendental knowledge is so powerful. It's just like as a fire burns firewood to ashes, so transcendental knowledge burns up all your karma, all reactions to material activities. And in this world, there's nothing so sublime and pure. Nothing. There's nothing as sublime. Sublime is like, you know, just some sort of wonderful pleasure. Not like, you know, material happiness can rarely be described as sublime, right? Because it's, you know, it's mixed with negativity. There's always like a flip side to it, right? But transcendental knowledge is sublime. You know, it's something incredibly wonderful and pure. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, so of all yoga practices. And one who has achieved this transcendental knowledge, enjoys the self within himself in due course of time, you know, achieves self-realization. You are spiritual in essence. Your nature is just as Krishna's nature is Sakshitananda. Your nature is also Sakshitananda, eternality, knowledge and bliss. So by receiving transcendental knowledge, one is able to become self-realized and experience this bliss. Then Krishna says, a faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So here Krishna begins talking about faith, the importance of faith, shraddha. Right? Faith is the beginning of spiritual life. In the 9 stages of devotional service that Srila Rupa Goswami describes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's 9 stages, right? Beginning from shraddha, or faith, and ending with prema bhakti, pure love for Krishna. So the very sort of foundation and beginning of spiritual life, or of progressing towards achieving pure love for Krishna, prema bhakti, the very first thing is faith. Right? So faith is belief or confidence or trust, right? That this transcendental knowledge is the truth, right? Like I'm saying, it includes appreciation for the gift. It's like appreciating it, free of doubts, free of worries, free of concerns, free of, which Krishna begins in the next verse. But anyway, so a faithful man, so faith, who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. You know, this world is so, like, we're in so much anxiety, there's no peace. But if we're absorbed in transcendental knowledge, those continually thinking We don't necessarily so much have to be actively thinking, but just it becomes a platform or a foundation for our life. This transcendental knowledge, this knowledge about Krishna, knowledge about who I am, knowledge about what this material world is. Like there's the three aspects: sambandha, relationship. So knowledge about relationship, who I am, who Krishna is, what my relationship is with Krishna in this material world. Sambandha, and then abhidaya, the process of devotional service. Right, and then prayojana, the goal of life. So knowledge about sambandha, abhidaya, and prayojana, or sometimes described as sadhana, the process, and sajja, the goal. Right, so having this faith in it and living our life in accordance with it and being absorbed in it, and who subdues his senses, so sense control. In other words, sense control is essentially acting upon this transcendental knowledge. Well, if I know I'm not the senses, and I actually know it, and have faith in that, well then I'm just not going to be that interested in pursuing sense gratification. It's just like, well, I'm not the senses, what's that got to do with me? Right? So a natural sense of detachment arises. We can't artificially give up this world. Of course, we do need to follow regulative principles and control our senses, but we can't be pretenders. We can't be pretending. In other words, like Krishna says in Bhagavad, in chapter 2, that we have to tani savani samyamya, yukta sita matparahara. So we need a higher engagement. It's like you have a little kid. You want to get him to give up something. He's holding some toy and he won't share it with his brother or something, or sister or whoever, right? He's not going to give it up. And you want him to give it up. No, give that up. Well, you have to give them something else, a higher engagement. So this is a higher taste. So this is the process, not artificial. So what is this higher taste? What's a higher taste than material sense enjoyment? The higher taste is experiencing the reality of this transcendental knowledge and acting upon it. Chanting Krishna's names. As we chant Krishna's names, we experience the purifying effect. We begin to taste. This is one of the stages. I mentioned 9 stages of bhakti yoga. The 5th or 6th stage, the 6th stage is ruchi, taste. Right? So as we become increasingly purified through the chanting of the holy names of Krishna and the engaging in the processes of sadhana bhakti, then we begin to experience taste or flavor, ruchi. Of course, we can experience this right from the beginning, but the stage of ruchi is like where this is like, really experiencing it, and experiencing it all the time, not just occasionally or sometimes. So anyway, so then Krishna then says, he's described the situation of the faithful man. Now he begins to speak about, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Right? So he describes ignorant, ajna, ignorant people, faithless people, people who don't have shraddha, who don't have faith. And then he describes the doubting soul. A lot of the commentators say that the worst one is the doubting soul. Like the ignorant person and the faithless person, well then they just get on with sense gratification, with their material life. Like they're ignorant, they don't know anything, so they just go out and try and enjoy, right? And then the faithless person is like, yeah, well, that's interesting, Bhagavad, all this stuff you're saying, but, I don't have any faith in it, screw that, I'm just going to carry on with, trying to enjoy myself. That's what I'm going to do. So people who are ignorant or faithless, they're able to sort of at least go and enjoy the material world. When I say at least, like that's not a good outcome, but it's like they're able to. But a person with doubts, in other words, they have some faith, but they're not sure, they're not confident. Or they have doubts that, sometimes then devotees say this, I don't know if I can ever become a lover of Krishna. I don't know that I can ever have pure love for Krishna. This is a doubt. So these doubts are harmful, right? They're leaving you in like this in-between world. There's the world of the people who have ignorant and have no faith, who are just able to sort of go out and enjoy the world. And then there's the people who have full faith and confidence in their spiritual master and what he's saying, and in Krishna's what he's saying, and in the power of the holy name, and they're just like totally into it and experiencing the happiness that comes from being, and fully engaged in these spiritual processes. But someone who has doubt and thinks, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I've got enough faith that I'm not going to go out and engage in simple activities and just try and enjoy myself. But I'm not going to get totally into this because I've got my doubts. I'm doubting, right? So you're stuck in this in-between world. It's like a worst world to be in. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So you're doubting, well, I can't enjoy the world, but I'm not going to achieve the spiritual world because I've got full of so many doubts. So anyway, and I've kind of done what I shouldn't have done, right? Spent the whole time and haven't got to the verse. Anyway, here's the verse. Therefore, one who has renounced the fruits of his action, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, and who is situated firmly in the self, is not bound by works. So the Sanskrit is yoga sanyasta kamanam, jnana sanchina samsayam, atmavantam na kamani, nibbannanti dhananjaya. So yoga, this is referring to devotional service in karma yoga, right? Nishkama karma yoga. So this is working without attachment to the results, right? Which Krishna has been talking about in so many different ways, beginning in chapter 2 in text 39, through the end of chapter 2, then in chapter 3, then again in chapter 4, Krishna's been describing this karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga, working without attachment to the results. And the higher form of nishkama karma yoga is offering the results. I'm doing this for Krishna. It's doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Right? And sannyasta, renounced. One is renounced or abandoned or given up or thrown down. Right? Kamanam, of the performers, activities or action. So renouncing, this sannyasta means is the renouncing the fruits of activities by working in yoga. And then jnana, knowledge or transcendental knowledge. Sanchina, cut by the advancement of knowledge, or slashed, cut away, severed. Samsayam, doubts, irresolution, hesitation. So this means overcoming all doubts by the transcendental knowledge. Right? So how do we become free of these doubts? It's through the power of the transcendental knowledge that Krishna is giving us. Like in chapter 10, so like at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, of course, Arjuna's got doubts. He's like, Krishna, heck, I don't want to do this. I know you want me to do it, Krishna, but I don't want to do it. Right? He's got doubts. Now, of course, Arjuna is, he's under the influence of Yoga Maya. Like, we have doubts, but we're under the influence of Mahamaya, Krishna's external material energy, right? We're covered by ignorance. But Arjuna's appearance of doubt is because he's under the influence of Krishna's pastime potency, Krishna's internal potency, his Yogamaya potency. So he's, for the purpose of Krishna's pastime, just like Mother Yasoda, for example, she thinks Krishna is her child. And if ever she begins to think of Krishna as the Supreme Lord, it interferes with the rasa, or the flavor of the love that Mother Yashoda has for Krishna. So for example, when Lord Balaram comes and tells Mother Yasoda, Krishna's been eating dirt. And so Mother Yasoda goes, have you been eating dirt, Krishna? Krishna, no, I haven't been. Oh, Balana was like, no, yes, he has. Okay, Krishna, let me look in your mouth. So she looks in his mouth and she sees the whole universe, sees Krishna's universal form, sees the whole universe. Even sees that she's looking in Krishna's mouth. She even then sees herself looking into Krishna's mouth. So she becomes to think, whoa, what is this? Who is this son? And he's someone, some great mystic yogi, or maybe he's God himself, So then so how can you be a mother chastising and correcting your son if you think he's God? You're going to be like so worried, So then this interferes with Krishna's pastimes, the rasa, the loving relate. Krishna enjoys being loved by Mother Yasoda in her mood of vatsalya, parenthood. So this knowledge that we receive from our spiritual master and Krishna then severs or cuts away all the doubts. So we need to hear. So hearing, like the processes of sadhana bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So Shravanam, hearing. It all begins with hearing. Reading is a type of hearing. Attendance at classes is a type of hearing. Listening to Prabhupada speak, our spiritual master speak. This is cutting all the doubts. So overcoming our doubts, our irresolution, our hesitation. So Atmavantam, so situated in the self, attaining the state of self-realization, realizing the soul, composed in the self, composed or prudent. So Ramanuja Acharya, I was speaking of Ramanuja earlier, Ramanuja Acharya says the compound word Atmavantam means one who is self-satisfied. Satisfied with Atmarama, right? Self-satisfied. Doesn't need something external to be satisfied. It's kind of like, today people are like, well, if you're going to sit me down on a chair for a while, I'm not self-satisfied. I want to do something. What's on TV? What's on Netflix? What can I do? Who can I call? I've got to go and get something to eat. I'm not self-satisfied. I'm not able to just sit and be peaceful and experience self-satisfaction through realization of the self, right? So Atmavantam means one who is self-satisfied, one whose mind is unassailable and unapproachable by any type of doubt. Such a person has achieved an unshakable certitude about the reality and eternality of the soul from the teachings received from the spiritual master. It's actually in this section about the gift of knowledge. This is all beginning with text 34, that one should approach, a bona fide spiritual master, a tattva who is a jnaninas, someone who has knowledge, self-realized, and tattva-darshinaha is a seer of the truth. So this transcendental knowledge is coming from the spiritual master. Na is never not. Kamani, work, collective karma or actions. Nibandhate, to bind up or bind. And Dhananjaya, O conqueror of riches, O winner of wealth. So Arjuna is a warrior. Krishna is reminding him he's a warrior. Arjuna, you need to defeat these doubts. You need the weapon to overcome these doubts, so you can conquer your doubts and become self-realized. You have to conquer the doubts to become self-realized. Right? And so this self-realization, this weapon is jnana, or knowledge, which you can use to sanchina, or cut the ignorance and the lack of faith and the doubts away. So therefore one who has renounced the fruits of his action, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, and who is situated firmly in the self, is not bound by works, O conqueror of riches. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, one who follows the instruction of the Gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead Himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord, in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, He is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Okay, so we got it done, so we can move on from 441 to 442. So, look forward to that next week. So I'll prepare another PDF, or I've prepared a PDF on 442. So I hope you find the PDF helpful if you've got it and looked at it. It's in the Facebook group. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Haribo, Namaste, Krishna Krishna, thank you so much. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate all the comments. Thank you. Haribo.